Now whatever we have seen till now, we have read through a list, we have read through a tuple, we have read through a input from user. All these are good and they're good for practice, but in real time, most of the time you'll end up working with files, right? You'll have to read the files, you have to process the files, so you have to apply some transformations and logic, and then you'll have to ultimately load into another file. So you have a source, then you have a target, right? Now in order to read or write the file, so there are certain steps that we follow. First step is like, in order to read or write, you'll have to first open the file. Now once you open the file, you have to specify whether the file that has been opened is for reading purpose or for writing purpose, and then you process the file. You read each line in the file. If there are any transformations or logic that needs to be applied, you apply that logic, and then you write the file. So reading a file and writing the file, these are very simple concepts, a very simple syntax, and we will look into them. Let's first look into reading a file. I'm at downloads folder. I have a file here like sales data mockup. So I'll open this file. Now this is the data that is there in this file. Now we are not going to process this data right now, but what I wanted to show you guys is how to read a file and certain operations that you can do on that file. Now this is the name of the file. Now I'm in the download section, so I'll copy this name. Now the first thing that you have to do is open the file. Opening the file is just open and you give the location of the file. Now because I'm in download section, I just gave the file name, but if you are in some other section and you want to access file which is present in some other directory, you have to give the full path. Now that you have asked to open the file, you have to specify whether you want this file to be open for read purpose, write purpose, or append purpose. Now R specifies that you want to open the file for reading purpose. Now if you say W, it says that you want to open the file for writing, and if you say A, it says you want to open the file for appending. Now the difference between write and append is, if a file is already existing, what write will do is it will clear out all the contents in that file and it will add the new contents, while append, what it does, it will it will preserve the contents that is already there and it will keep adding to the already existing content. So that's the difference between write and append. So we'll open this for read. I'll assign to a variable, let's say file handler. I'll execute this. Now there are certain methods we can apply here. Let's say file handler dot read. So what it does is it reads all the data, all the lines in the file, and it outputs. So if you see here, all the data from the file has been read. Now there's another method called as read line. Now what read line does is it will read one line at a time. So there are like I think 30 records here, 30 lines, so it will only read one line at a time. If you execute this, you see just one line. So there is only one line that is being read. And there is another method called as read lines. So what it does is it reads all the lines, but then it stores them in the form of a list. So if you execute this, you see it has read all the lines, but you see this here, the brackets, it has read them and it has put them in a list. Now you can go through the list and you can do the process that whatever process that you want to do, right? So this is about reading the files. Now once the other way, or the most common way that we do, is we iterate using a for loop. So for line in file handler, so you're iterating through every line in the file, and let's say I just want to print them. So when I do this, so as you can see, all the records have been printed here. Now once you have done with processing the file, you will have to close the file. I'll say file handler dot close. Now the reason why we need to do this is Python has a limitations of how Python has a limitation, like it cannot keep all the files, lot of files open at a time, right? Because when you open a file, a certain piece of memory is occupied, so we want to release that memory. So as soon as your processing is complete, you'll have to close the file. Now this is about reading a file. Now let's just write some file, right? So let's say I'll go back here in my download section. Let's say I'll create a new file like sales data mockup underscore test. Okay, so I'll just say underscore test. Now this file does not exist, so if a file does not exist, right, and you specify right, it will create that file. Now let's execute this. Now if you see here, a new file is created with a 0 byte. Open this. You have nothing here because we have not written anything in it. Let's just write something to this. So there's a method called as write. So I'll say file handler dot write. Slash n is for a new line. So once this is printed, once this is written, it will add a new line here. So I'll add another line here. Let me execute this. This done. I'll go back to the file. I'll refresh this. On this file, I'll say this to statement line 1. So this is how you write to a file. Now you can also read from a file and then write to the other file. Now let's say I'll read from this file mockup.txt and I'll write to this file. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to open this file. I'll have to open this mock.txt file in read. I'll call it as file handler read. I'll have to open this file in write, so I'll call it as file handler right. Now instead of write, I'll just say append, right, because we have already seen write, so we'll just append this. Now for line in read, I'll iterate through this and I am going to write to this. I will then close the write. I'll close the read as well. So I'll execute this. I'll go back and check what is there in this. Now if I open this, as you can see, these were already there in this file, and now all the contents from the other file that we have read have been written into this file. So this is how you read from one file, you write into the other file. This is all about file handling operations. I hope this is very clear to you, and do practice these things, and I'm sure these are like very simple statements. By practice you will definitely do a lot better. That's all for this session. We'll meet in the next class.